Hi, my name is Bruno Sade from brunosade.com, and today I want to talk about how to apply EFT to the issue of weight loss. In other words, to the emotional aspects or some of the emotional aspects that can be at play with weight loss. And as with most issues, the main question we want to ask ourselves is how can we break down this issue or this problem into its smaller parts? And in EFT, these smaller parts are usually specific events. So again, the question is, how can we turn this issue into the smaller specific events that make it up? So let's talk about the different aspects that we can address with EFT when it comes to weight loss. First of all, there's the issue of how a person feels about their weight or their habit of overeating, for example. So one possibility can be to come up with a recent event of when I remember how much I ate last night, that I didn't really need to eat that much. I feel really ashamed of myself. And so that's a specific event that you can tap on with a client, for example. Or it can be a future event. For example, thinking about my cousin's upcoming wedding, and I know it's going to be really hard to find clothes that fit me. That makes me feel really sad, or that makes me feel disgusted at myself. And I feel this feeling in my chest, and this is what I'm noticing right now. So that would be like a setup statement. Another aspect when it comes to weight loss can be thinking about the actual process that might be required to lose weight. So for example, even though when I imagine myself at the gym next week trying to work out, and I know it's going to be so hard, and that makes me feel really hopeless, and I feel this hopelessness in my throat, and this is what I'm noticing right now, or I accept this is what I'm feeling right now. So that could be a setup statement, or it could be, even though when I remember the last time that I tried to work out and it was so extenuating that I felt like throwing up, when I remember that, it makes me feel really angry at myself. And this is what I'm noticing right now. Another aspect to address is looking for specific events or memories of what was going on in this person's life, in your client's life, at the time when they started to gain weight, or even leading up to that time, like maybe 6 months before or a year before that time. So for example, maybe it was their parents getting divorced, and that can be like a whole time period, but looking for specific scenes that might stand out from that time period. So an example of a setup statement might be, even though when I remember being at school and my friends happened to be talking about how awful it must be to have your parents divorced, and my parents had just gotten divorced, so I felt really embarrassed about that, and I felt really isolated to be the only one whose parents were getting divorced at the time. When I think about that now, it makes me feel really sad that I was so isolated, and I feel this sadness in my eyes. And this is what I'm noticing right now. Another aspect that can be addressed with EFT is thinking about the current day triggers when it comes to, for example, overeating or resorting to comfort food. So every time I come back from work and it's been such a stressful day, I really need to eat ice cream, for example, and just thinking about the possibility of not being able to eat that ice cream after work makes me feel really desperate. And I feel this desperate feeling in my chest. And this is what I'm noticing right now. So that could be a setup statement, or even saying, okay, so if work is so stressful, what about work makes it so stressful? That maybe there are some emotional triggers that can be explored thinking about work. So for example, even though when I imagine the next time that my boss criticizes my work and says, well, you could do better, as I think about their tone of voice saying that to me, or the look on their face as they say, well, you could do better, makes me feel really frustrated. And I feel this frustration in my belly. And this is what I'm noticing right now. So that is another example of a setup statement. Then another aspect could be thinking about what are some concerns or fears of what might go wrong as a result of having lost the weight. This is sometimes known as secondary gains, which is not a term I'm very fond of, but basically it means there's a part of us that for whatever reason, associates something negative or painful or unpleasant about having achieved, for example, the goal of losing weight. So an example of a set statement might be, even though when I imagine myself having lost the weight and now I'm looking at all of my old clothes and I have to throw them all away and I have to buy new clothes, but then what if I gain back the weight and now I have to again go shop for new clothes? That makes me feel really overwhelmed. And when I think about that, I feel this overwhelmed feeling in my chest. And this is what I'm noticing right now. Or another example, even though when I imagine myself having lost the weight and now people start complimenting me on the weight and I feel really self-conscious about them talking about my body, or I feel this self-consciousness in my chest. And this is what I'm noticing right now. Or another example, even though when I imagine myself having lost the weight and now I'm walking down the street and men are looking at me in a way that makes me feel uncomfortable, when I think about that, I feel afraid of that and I feel this fear in my chest area. And this is what I'm noticing right now. And finally, another aspect that can be addressed with EFT is the cravings. So for example, this can be like, even though just thinking about how much I really want to go eat that ice cream and it's that sweet taste is really good and it just makes me want it so much. And this is what I'm noticing right now. So you just tap on the physical qualities or the visual or sensory kinesthetic qualities of the food and how it makes you feel. And again, hopefully, as you tap on that, it diminishes that craving or that need to have that food. Or it might also bring up memories, related memories that you can then also, if it feels appropriate, decide to work on by yourself or with the help of an experienced practitioner. So that's it for today. I hope this video was useful. If you have any questions or comments, please write them in the comments below. And I look forward to seeing you again on my next videos.